Alright guys, today we'll be looking at the side control. The position side control, a really dominant one, whereby we can attack many submissions and transitions into the mount or the back. First, we have to understand the subsections of side control. There are various categories of side control, various sub-positions within the position. And in this video, we are going to go over them. First type of side control, guys, is an orthodox side control. Orthodox side works by me pinning his hips and his shoulders, not necessarily trying to crush him with the weight of my chest. What we want to be careful of is over pitching and getting our bum way above our head. This can cause us to be thrown head over heels. When we're controlling, we want to isolate the hips and isolate the shoulders. The way I do this, first and foremost, is to take my knees and my elbows and have them work together. My chest is going to sit on that center line of the opponent's chest. My hand on the side to which I am placed, on the head side, will come around the head and grab the far armpit. So we are grabbing underneath the far armpit. We're maintaining shoulder pressure into the opponent's chin, forcing him to only look in one direction. If his head's locked in one direction, it means his body can naturally only turn to one direction, which is a direction we can anticipate. On the lower half, my elbow is going to connect to the opponent's hip. My knee on the far side is going to wedge the hip across from the elbow. I'm bringing the elbow and the knee together. My leg on the side to which I'm controlling the head, I want to have it so that the knee sits underneath the opponent's armpit. By isolating this arm, our transitions and our attacks become far easier. What we don't want to have is Chad's elbow on the inside of my hip. This will help him create a frame, push off, and recover a guard position. So the orthodox side, my knees high, my hand is under the back of his head, cupping under the far armpit. My shoulder turned in. My elbow wedged and pinching into the hip, and my knee meeting it on the other side. This is the orthodox side position. If you notice in that position, when I'm in orthodox side, I've got my knees in a nice wide V shape. My elbows are connecting to my knee on the head side, and my elbow and my knee are connecting on the same line through the opponent's hips. We don't have to hold our hands in this particular position. We can, or we can also use our hands in an open palm position and use the hand to base. Next type of side control position will be what is referred to as the scarf position. Our scarf position, we'll break it up into two subsections. One is orthodox scarf and the other is judo side. Let's have a look at that position. In the orthodox scarf position, we have the opponent's shoulder secured with our hand going across the body. We have our hip sitting up against the opponent's hip, and we have our free hand grabbing the elbow. I want to have my floating rib up against Chad's floating rib. My free leg is placed on the floor with the foot down, known as our kickstand. My knee is wedged high under his armpit. The orthodox scarf position, we have the knee high under the opponent's shoulder. We're cupping the shoulder with our hand on the far side. We have our foot based, and we have control of the opponent's tricep and elbow. I can also raise my bum off a little here to maintain that pressure inwards. My hip is nice and firm up against the body of the opponent. The next position will be our judo side. Very similar to the orthodox scarf. The only difference is, instead of grabbing the shoulder, we're going to now cup the head and hold the inside of our own hamstring. So in the side control position, an orthodox side, if I wanted to switch to the judo side, my hand that was on the hip will go in front of the hand that's in front of my neck or framing. It'll come around the opponent's head. I'll switch my hips inwards. I'll take the hand around the back of the opponent's head and I'll grab the inside of my hammy, and I'll use my free leg as the kickstand and my free hand to control the tricep of the opponent. Once again, driving pressure through the ribs into the opponents. I can also float my butt from this position. Now, the mirrored opposite of your scarf and your judo side position is your twister side position. The twister side position, my hips are going to switch in towards the opponent's legs, and we're now going to reach across the body to isolate their shoulders and their hips. In the twister side position, my hand that was originally behind the opponent's head is going to weave in front of his head and between the gap of his bicep and his body. I'm going to work my hand as high as I can, keeping the elbow tight up against his tricep, and I'm going to switch my hips. I'm going to take my leg on the inside and keep it tight up against the opponent's hip, and my free leg will provide me with the kickstand. The higher up my butt can get to the opponent's arms, the better, because I will immobilize them, making them less effective to be able to recover. I can use my free hand to control and watch his legs. This is known as our twister side or reverse scarf position. From here, I can also lower my head to keep it out of the danger of his legs grabbing or wrapping around my head. Let's see how we would flow into that position from an orthodox position. When I am transitioning into the twister side position, I want to reverse my bum up towards his arm so that I open his hands out above his head, making it difficult for him to recover. Don't forget that little key. The next position we'll be looking at, guys, is the north-south position. So the north-south position, a very simple position. You've got the opponent and your spine in line. So Chad, So Chad's spine and my spine perfectly in line. My chest placed on Chad's chest. Now, I can have my hands either on the inside of his elbows, both my hands on the inside, or I can have one on the inside, one on the outside. What I mean by this is I can have one hand under the armpit on the one side, and on the other side, we can have the hand over the armpit. All right. Another control that can be utilized in this position is having both my hands under both the opponent's shoulders or triceps. This gives me a completely different set of opportunities. In the north-south position, my legs are nice and wide. My legs are wide. They're sprawled out with my hips going into the mat as if I was doing a sprawl movement. How do we flow from a orthodox side control into a north-south position? It would need me to go from orthodox side to a hybrid twister side, and then from twister side into the north-south position. So to get to north-south, we'll start in orthodox side control, blocking the hip with my knee and my elbow, have Chad's hand nice and secure and framed on both sides. Now, I'm going to first go to twister side, take my right hand out, place it across his body, between the hand and the floor. Put him up against the ribs, switch my hands. From here, reverse my hips up and walk my feet away until I'm now chest on chest in my north-south position. Let's see that one more time. Another position that can be utilized quite effectively in the side control is our J-frame. The J-frame is me placing pressure on the opponent's legs, causing his spine to bend into a J. Now this in the future will help us in being able to progress along a path of either back taking or simply maintaining control of side control. This is the J-frame. When we're in the side control position, we've got to be aware, very careful, that there's no cavity that forms between my hip and the opponent's hip. This cavity can be exploited by the opponent where they will put in a frame, create space, and recover a guard. So to minimize that, what we're going to do is take our hip and we're going to run it up against the opponent's quad. Whilst doing this, we are taking away any space that might linger between my hip and his. I will run so that his knee is now all the way across to the far side. Once I've got his hips across, I will keep my weight nice and square. I will not keep turning my hip over. I will go back to a neutral point on my knees. I can then use my free hand on the far side to control that top knee. Depending on where I'd like to move on from here, there are a few opportunities. Going into the J-frame, guys, we're going to run our hip in towards the quad. We're going to use our hand at the end to help us pin the knee, and we're going to stabilize ourselves back onto our knees. I'm sitting over the opponent's hip, guys, giving me downward pressure, preventing him from being able to move freely. This hand can provide support in preventing him from recovering easily. The final position we'll look at is a very dangerous one, known as the crucifix position. The crucifix position, we have the opponent's arms spread apart, each of them immobilized by both our hands and our legs. Let's have a look at it. In the crucifix position, there's multiple ways in which you can enter it. We're going to look at a very simple method of entering the crucifix. First thing is first, guys, we're going to want to pin the hand on the near side with my knee. So this hand, what we're going to want to have to do, we're going to want to have to switch our hips as if we're going into our orthodox scarf position. We want to take control of the wrist, push it outwards so that our knee and our shin can cut across the bicep. We're then going to pin our knee to the floor. That knee is going to keep that hand where it is. My hand is going to come across, clear the opponent's hand from my neck if it has been put in place as a frame, and place my head on the inside. My hand that was controlling the shoulder will answer the phone. Both hands will go to the same side, now circling the shoulder. I will then connect both my feet. I will lift the opponent's hand off the floor by bringing my knees together, pulling the hand over my bottom leg, and then triangling my feet. Putting my feet, toes down into the mat, and stretching the opponent out for the crucifix position. Alright guys, so those positions create the foundation for us to begin progressing our way through side controls. Get comfortable with each position, feel the nuanced techniques within each of them. In side control, remember, to control it, you don't always just have to smash through the opponent and try and flatten them with your weight. If you're the smaller person, you're not going to be able to successfully do that. Being able to pin the hips and the shoulders in the correct way, or pegging them, is what will provide you with a stable control platform. Allowing yourself to flow seamlessly between the multitude of positions whilst your opponent is reacting will ensure that you have a successful top side control. Guys, thank you for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you, Jay.